gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for June. No, we're on July 7th, 2022 for the next hour. So let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, erotic role players have formed a human wall in Final Fantasy XIV, and that's my kink now. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game Mess Mornings. It's Jan Ochoa from Giant Bomb, everybody. Hooray!
It's me. I'm ready to put myself on billboards with the horny anime Final Fantasy people. Put me on the boards.
You've always been ready for that. Admit it, Jan. You've always been ready for this.
God, ever since I saw FF12 on some magazine cover, I knew it was my time. I finally found my people.
It's
but you were right. Like, honestly, I think it was just a matter of time.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
it was
the
there all
ladies,
along, and it was unlocked within you.
Yes,
it was
yes.
cat boys, bunny ladies. It's all it took. A billboard somewhere went up, and you're like, all right, time to let my billboard freak flag fly.
God,
I believe.
Do you think it's cheaper to get like one of those electronic billboards, like time on those, than a printed billboard?
I would assume so. I bet like the bidding on, well, maybe it's easier to bid, so maybe there's more competition, so maybe it's a little bit higher. Because I would assume like for an electronic billboard, you just go to a website and you're bidding just like a Google AdSense sort of thing, right? And it's probably just super easy to get in there, like putting an ad on a cable news channel at 3 a.m. But which we should do both these things. We should put a cable news channel for Giant Bomb on like at 3 a.m.
Definitely.
And then we should
Pluto
get
TV.
Yeah, and then a blue board, Pluto TV, exactly, and then a digital billboard for sure. Honestly, that's all I've been thinking about since that story yesterday about the Final Fantasy XIV billboard. I'm like, man, we should be getting a billboard. All right, before we get into the mess, let's explain ourselves and what we do on this show. Each weekday, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news, the catch-up, where we discuss the biggest topics consuming the lives of gamers everywhere, and maybe even bring some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will join to make me look smart.
But you're joined by me today. So,
oh, no.
Sorry, Grubb.
I would have it no other way. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. If you are watching on there, please hit that like button. Do the thing.
Do that.
Do the thing.
Juice the algorithm.
Juice Al. We've always said this. Juice Al.
Yeah, doesn't everyone want to juice Don Cheadle?
Delicious algae rhythm juice. Come on, make it happen, everybody. Okay. We have a lot to get into, actually. The list of news kept getting longer and longer as we got closer and closer to the show. So let's start the morning mess with PAX organizer ReedPop. Man, I just realized that I copy and paste this from VGC. Andy Robinson over VGC, and he used organizer with an S, and it makes me infuriated. PAX organizer ReedPop is officially taking over E3. Will reshape what didn't work, is like the quote in the headline there. The veteran events company pledges to create a new benchmark for video game expos. ReedPop, the events company behind PAX, EGX, Star Wars Celebration, and New York Comic Con, will officially take over the running of E3 in 2023. The Entertainment Software Association announced the news on Thursday following recent confirmation that the flagship show will return in 2023 for its first in-person event in 4 years. Commenting on the news, ReedPop said E3 2023 would welcome back publishers, developers, journalists, content creators, manufacturers, buyers, and licensors. I'm glad they got the licensors in there. That's what's important to me.
Thank God.
And they also highlight the digital showcase and will feature in-person consumer components. It claimed it had listened to feedback from the gaming community and would honor what always worked about the games industry event while reshaping what didn't. I got some other quotes here, but generally just like take your temperature. Where are you at with the idea of a PAXified E3?
I don't mean this to come off as gatekeepy here, but I don't think the public should be let in.
Yeah, I mean,
at least for the whole thing.
Yeah, I think maybe there could be public days. I think that would be the right way of doing this. But it's it's a clash of purposes, right? There's a certain audience that was always there at E3 to get business done, to TCB, take care of business, and they are going to encounter the problems that were already there with that, where it's like getting around takes some time, and there are lines even when you are there for business. Getting from one meeting to the other is a pain. Those problems are going to be exacerbated, and were exacerbated when you have the public in there. And okay, we get to go and see video games in person. We're not really complaining. I'm just saying that it is still, it's styles clashing. And then on the other side, you have people coming in from the public looking to be entertained, who have paid their own money to shack up in a hotel, to travel there, and then for entrance. And it's not going to be cheap. And the entertainment that they were getting was mostly waiting in line to play a game that was made for the press for 10 to 15 minutes. It's not a great experience. Now, they have figured this out with PAX. PAX is a really well put together event. It has been for forever now. So I could see where they try to make that happen, but I think you're right, where we should have like press days, business days, not just press days, but like business days where people are able to have their meetings and whatever, do their secret E3 and come up with the next big game idea and execute on it. And then public days. I think that's the right way to pull this off.
Yeah, I definitely think I definitely think we need a division of days that are just for press and the industry, because watching folks miserably wait in line to watch a trailer that one E3 was, gosh, it just seemed like a bad look across the board. But the folks at PAX, running PAX, I feel like they can figure it out to perhaps spread it out. The thing that I'm scared of is that this perhaps creates a longer event where there are more days for press and then even more days for the public. Not that we as an outlet would need to necessarily stay there during all of the public days, but I could just see it. It is already a week-long work thing. I could see it stretching out into a 2-week work thing.
And it was already spreading out a little bit, in the 2019, was that the last year? In 2017, 2018, 2019, things were spreading out more and more, and like into the week before, and it was becoming like a 2-week long thing. If you wanted to get there a full week ahead of time, you would have had stuff to do for work. And again, never really complaining about any of that stuff. It is going to do mostly fun things, and when it is like this like sprint of doing a lot of work in a very short amount of time, it is still mostly a privilege that we got to do these things. It's just, I still think it's not ideal for the people who would be paying to like try to glom onto that experience. You need to separate a little bit.
Do you think this opens up like if they do live press conferences again, do they open it up to the public where you can go in and watch these press conferences and they aren't just pre-taped anymore?
I think that there's a world where the in-person experience makes more sense if the public is there, because I think one of the main reason they stopped doing in-person events, announcement media blitzes, is because it was costly. But then another reason is you would invite a bunch of press and then you'd have half the audience just kind of sitting there taking notes and not applauding and not being excited, and so there'd be this smattering. So then companies started bringing in the public, or they would bring in developers, and they would all be cheering their own games and stuff. And they're like, this is weird. Like, why are we doing this? Trying to force this? But if you have an audience that is like there to be partaking in the excitement, then you have an audience that you can bring in and do in-person media blitzes. But I still think these presentations mostly won't happen because they are so much easier to just produce ahead of time. Most people are going to watch them on YouTube. You play to that, and you can still make them like slick with really cool presentation, and then it doesn't matter whether the audience is excited or not. So you can kind of just fake that stuff.
The thing. Sorry, go ahead, Grubb.
I was just going to read a quote. No, you finish up your thought first.
The thing I'm happy about is that I know that the AV industry and the video industry as a whole really suffered because of the pandemic. That because these big trade shows are able to come back, or something like E3 is on its way back, that those companies can open back up, or at least start hiring again. Because, geez, like I had a lot of friends that work these trade shows, and they definitely suffered throughout the pandemic, and some of them had to leave that industry because of it.
Yeah, and I think that, it's not just like, Triple Point and stuff like that. People that events companies that would hire people for a couple of weeks to come work booths and stuff. That just went away, and that's probably a lot of like working or attempting work at actors who are looking for stuff to make some money in places like LA. I mean, that's a big chunk of change that they're now going to be missing out on. So anything to sort of boost up that existing industry there is, I'm all for that. That's great, and I think that
bring booth babes and booth boys.
Yes, exactly. Booth humans. I think if we could split the difference there, just bring us booth humans, and I think we'll be okay. Nintendo always still had just people work in their booth. They just let them wear normal human clothes. So it was like, okay, this is the right way to do this. I think that this is also sort of the only path forward for the ESA. The ESA was already like a failing institution before the pandemic. They were struggling to put together an E3 show in 2020, even before they had to cancel because of COVID. And so we get to this point where it's like, okay, now we're past COVID. All those same problems still existed. We lack the competency to pull off an in-person event. How do we make this happen? Well, you do what you do what Lucasfilm does with Star. Like, they don't have an events team. They hire an event company, ReedPop. Just do the same thing. It makes a lot of sense. It's going to mean probably less money for the ESA, but not the less money they get from not having an E3 at all. So it's sort of the only option they had. Even if it's like it's hard for me to see like how this makes sense, how they put this together. This is probably the team that could figure those problems out, and it's also like the one company that the ESA could work with.
Yes, 100%.
This is from Lance Finsterman. Yes, Lance Finsterman, who's president of ReedPop. It is a tremendous honor and privilege for ReedPop to take on the responsibility of bringing E3 back in 2023. With the support and endorsement of the ESA, we're going to build a world-class event to serve the global gaming industry in new and broader ways than we already do at ReedPop through our portfolio of world-leading events and websites. ReedPop's global VP of gaming, Kyle Martins-Kish, said, for years, we've listened and heard and studied the global gaming community's feedback. E3 2023 will be recognizably epic, a return to form that honors what's always worked while reshaping what didn't and setting a new benchmark for video game expos in 2023 and beyond. In response, shots fired. Jeff Keighley immediately tweeted, as we announced back in June, Summer Game Fest will return in 2023 as a free digital and in-person event to celebrate the future of video games, bringing our entire industry together to showcase what's next. And in response, I would like to say Jeff Grubb's Summer Game Mess will return in person at a Cheesecake Factory near you. We're gonna have meetups. We're gonna bring down the house. So brace yourself, brace your asses that's our motto, by the way. Brace your asses.
And then next door, I will be hosting the after party. We're gonna have a DJ session. We're just gonna share like my Spotify playlist.
DJ Key 3. Yeah, we'll have our own shirts for sure. We're gonna have a battle of t-shirts. We talked about that in the pre-show, so be looking out for that. I'm fine with this. We knew Keighley was gonna keep doing his own thing. He does a good job. It's like, I think the scales will be different, right? You're gonna get companies that have too much money probably showing up at the PAX E3 thing, and then the companies that are like somewhere in between, not sure where they want to be, can go to Keighley instead. This works for everybody, right?
Yes. I hope that, indie devs that perhaps can't make it to the big stage of E3 are able to be showcased properly at Key 3, or, vice versa. The games that could have gotten lost in the shuffle, I think now have even more of a chance of landing on either of these shows. Like, right. I hope there's a bidding war for, like, Rune Factory 6.
Yes. Or for Dwayne The Rock Johnson to come and huck his latest energy. Zoa 2 Oa is going to come out next year, and we're all going to find out first because we were watching either E3 or Summer Game Fest. So enjoy your gaming, everybody.
I'm going to enjoy so much gaming.
We'll keep up on this. We'll see, and we'll see how it really comes together. But E3 is dead. Long live E3. Take-Two sends DMC takedown notice to Luke Ross, creator of GTA 5, Red Dead Redemption 2, and Mafia VR mods. This was a takedown notice that just got sent to him like over this past week, and he kind of wrote this in a blog post. They are demanding that I remove all of their copyrighted work from my Patreon page. I immediately asked for clarifications since it is my belief that I'm not hosting any such materials. As you all know, I do create and distribute original modifications for those games, original pieces of software of my own creation that allow users to experience those games in different and hopefully more intense and profound ways. However, none of my modifications are built using any software belonging to Take-Two Interactive Software, and the modifications are not intended to replace the games, nor are they a means of exploiting Take-Two Interactive Software's proprietary IP or assets. And he goes on to say, like, this is like he's trying to figure out exactly what they mean, and he's like, if I can't figure out what they mean, I'm going to assume what they really mean here is we don't care about any of that, what you just said. We just want this all to go away. We don't want you to make these VR mods anymore, and this is our way of getting you to stop. That would be a slight abuse of DMCA, but that wouldn't be the first time that happened. So I'll say, Jan, this kind of stuff bums me out.
It does, yeah.
It's kind of like the wrong way of using DMCA, and you kind of wish companies would just embrace it. And I kind of thought we were at a point where companies were just like, hey, either shut up and just let it happen or fully embrace it. I didn't know the third option was still on the table for some of these companies to try to nuke it out of existence. Where are you at with this?
Yeah, it's unfortunate, especially when, it's an independent creator really breathing new life into these specific games. They obviously have a fondness for it. And it just sucks that when like the big lawyer boys come swinging around and they gotta take the independent creator down. It makes me curious as to if this is completely successful in taking his whole operation down. What happens to folks that make Minecraft mods, right? Like for different shaders and stuff. Is that considered something that Mojang could do? Take a DMCA and shut all those creators down? Who knows?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Right. I mean, I think it's clear that the companies have the brute force to make these kinds of things happen. If it doesn't convince Luke Ross, the creator of these mods, to push these things off the platform, well, then they'll go after where he gets his money from. Patreon. He has a big Patreon. He's got about 2,500 people who support him in the creation of this stuff. Again, all the stuff he's creating are add-ons, and probably technically, if they were to go to court and run this thing out, he would probably scrape by, all things being equal. In no world is all things equal. Like, what does that have to do with anything? It has nothing to do with the reality that we live in. The reality is one big corporation has a lot of lawyers that could do the threatening, and it's not worth the time or the potential penalties if Luke Ross or Patreon fail. Now, to that end, Patreon does seem interested in sort of trying to figure this one out. Patreon, Luke Ross says he reached out to Take-Two Interactive and said, hey, what's going on here? Can I get clarification? No response from Take-Two so far. Patreon says, hey, we are going to reach out on your behalf, and we're going to try to open up lines of communication between you and Take-Two to figure this out. So it's like, it's nice that Patreon, a company that wouldn't have to step up, it's just, they could be a hands-off platform. They could totally just play that role. And that's, I think everyone would be like, yeah, that's fine. That's what you're there for. They're going to step in and try to handle this, kind of putting themselves out there a little bit in a way that I wouldn't expect them to. But
yeah,
it's kind of nice to hear, right? That at least like someone's trying to help this guy out.
Yeah, do you think I can't help? A couple people have alluded to this in chat, but do you think they are perhaps trying to defend Lucas here in attempt to protect their own bag as well?
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't hurt, right? But I mean, I think
because it could set a precedent for a lot of projects that are supported on Patreon being taken down.
That's true. It's probably long-term thinking. It is, but it's also like the way that most other companies protect their bag in a situation like this is if a DMCA gets brought up, they just do whatever the company asks. I mean, that's YouTube's policy. DMCA, we'll nuke it and we bounce. And that's their long-term strategy. Be like, we don't want to actually get sued by these companies. In a situation where like the DMCA has been brought up and Patreon could just nuke and bounce, they are saying we're going to get involved, which could, maybe make them liable, maybe make them a potential defendant in court in a case like this. So Obviously though, there's still the monetary value of, he's got 2,500 subs. We'd like to keep, the 8% or whatever we take from that. But on top of that, we don't want other companies getting the same idea. So maybe playing a little bit of defense here makes some sense for Patreon. I think that's a totally fair reading of the situation. I'll say that I really like VR mods for games. I think it's cool when they get added. I also think that if you are a company who is doing your own VR thing, and that's why you're making this move, you really don't worry about the mods. There is an audience that plays with mods, and it's not the audience that you're going to be reaching by yourself. I mean, we just like Live Alive. That demo went out, the preview started going out for it, and people are like, I can't believe no one ever told me about this game. And for years, fans of that series have been like, there's a fan translation. There's a fan translation. That doesn't matter because that is no substitute for the company putting out an official release of a game. Now, of course, this is an updated version, all that stuff, but an official release will reach so many more people than a fan translation, a mod, a VR mod that you could find on some Patreon somewhere. It's just not the same. So don't this should not be like the way that Take-Two is actually handling this, but whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, accessibility in terms of like even getting a fan translation to work for a lot of the gaming general audience is too many hoops to jump through. Like, you mean I have to download this and download a zip and then find the zip in this program? What?
Yep. Mods have gotten like easier, but even like then they are it's like so easy that I'm like, when I open a game, it's like, hey, just sign in, go hit the subscribe button on this one website and sign in. I'm like, well, that sounds too easy. It's probably not going to work. So I don't I just don't buy it. I'm like, if it's not right there in the game, I don't want to do it. Now, Steam Workshop is so easy. I kind of can't help but do it. But everything else, I'm like, mod.io. I just started messing around with that. That actually is very useful though. So pretty cool. Okay, let's see here. Skate 4 test details have started to leak out. We knew this Skate 4 test was happening because they announced it. EA said, hey, we're going to be taking more testers. It started up. Details are leaking out. I don't think EA minds so much because mostly people are talking about how cool it is. But the playtest was still untextured as in recent trailers and the leaks some months ago. This comes from a poster, I think, on a Reddit. It runs on the Frostbite engine. The map test was called Fun City, something I think we actually talked about on Grubb Snacks a few months ago. So yes, it's called Fun City. It's still called Fun City. Seems to be a small test section of the fuller map. The test map was a mixture of new areas and old untextured areas from the original games. Community Center from Skate 1 was included, even with details like the mini ramp where we all learned pumping. So maybe San Vansterdam could be the third redesign of Zan Fanalona. But it could also be a completely new city with some of the original map pieces, which were only included for the playtest. There's different control presets: classic, streamlined, experienced. Could maybe replace the difficulty settings and be more suitable for different playstyles, ranging from ultra realistic to arcade insane Skate 3 like trick lines. There were also controls dedicated to PC players, so that's nice that they're thinking about that from the jump here. Where are you at, Jim, with your excitement for Skate 4? Because I'm kind of getting there. Hearing more about this game, I'm like, I am getting there with this.
I am so juiced, especially with I've been actually rewatching that trailer because it just leaves a pleasant feeling in my mouth. Sorry, phrasing. and just seeing how it seems like they are perhaps focusing on like the multiplayer aspect. I can only imagine me and my hoodlum friends having a great time, and then just us, as a staff having a fun time.
Yes.
Skating together, especially if there are these different control presets, because I know a lot of people bounced off of Skate because they found it too difficult with like the stick flicking and everything. So if there is a streamlined control preset that maybe closer mimics something like a Tony Hawk but still retaining the Skate feel, I think it'd be great across the board.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is the kind of thing where you just kind of create a fun playground for people to mess around with, and it sounds like they're going for it. And then
Jeff Grubb.
Yes.
Is the Christ Air the original T-pose?
Yes. You know what, Jan? Yes, absolutely. Christ Air, always my favorite move, by the way. That was I would rack up so many. Rune Glifberg throwing out the Christ Air. That was my man. Or maybe it was Gilfberg, but either way, I called him Rune Glifberg when I was a kid. So Let's see. There's a career and online career mode. The testers appeared to be in like an online career, and it seemed pretty similar to Tony Hawk's Proving Ground, where it's all about skating, sharing, and creativity, and you earn followers in the game, and that's like the main. We've seen that before in a bunch of these kinds of games now, but like that's the idea you're going for.
The ultimate metric of success.
Exactly. There will be a home skate park. Your home or private skate park is essentially the training park you build in the tutorial, and from there on, you actually get to fully build it out and design it for yourself. That's the kind of thing where I think like as you're like earning things, you can customize your own skate park and then say, hey, come over to my skate park today and have your friends over. That could be pretty cool. I think that'd be pretty neat. Also, they've updated the ragdoll physics, so it's much less stiffer than it was in Skate 3. And I think we saw like glimpses of that in that last trailer that they showed, where they're like, hey, we are just going to whip these ragdolls around in a really fun and silly way, because we know a lot of people come to these games because they see compilation trailers of all the weird things that can happen, and we want to enable that and unlock that and empower that. And then I think the game also has like a video editing built in, so like that's what comes to the creativity part. So like you can do something in the game and then quickly edit a video and post it to social. So that's pretty neat as well. I'm getting pretty excited for Skate 4. We're probably still not going to get it for quite some time. I think the person in that posted this was like, it's coming in October, either this October or next October. I'm like, well, it's definitely not this October, but even next October seems a bit aggressive. I think we're probably not going to get it until like maybe early 2024, which I'm okay with. Take your time, figure this one out, and just make it the like skate platform going forward, where you get all the basics and then you could just add on to it later whatever you want. And as long as all the basics are good, it's the kind of game that I think can live for a very long time.
Grubb, do you know contractually if Tony Hawk is at all tied to Activision Blizzard?
I think that contract comes and goes. Like he definitely, like at this point with no game in the works, he would be free to go wherever he wants. I think that there's probably a part of him and his like business, manager would know that their bread is really buttered with Activision doing another Tony Hawk game, and maybe holding off and waiting to see if you can make another one of those happen. That's going to be the big payday. It's going to be a big seller, all this other stuff.
Sure.
So you just wait and see, and make sure you don't spoil any potential possibility for that to happen by, going to EA. Now, that said, if we get to a point where it's clear that no Tony Hawk's Pro Skater game will ever happen again, Tony Hawk could easily just, I think, go to EA and make it happen. So, that'd be cool. I think it'd be awesome to see him in a skate game. Okay, last week EA did a bad tweet about how they're a 10, but they only like single player games or something like that, and never got mad at them and dunked on them all day, and they never forgot. But people didn't forget within EA. This comes from Zach Swisen at Kotaku. EA's bad tweet last week has led to roundtable meetings with angry staff. Ooh. Last Thursday, the official EA Twitter account tweeted a bad joke about single player games that led to an internet-wide roasting and eventually an apology from the Battlefield publisher. And apparently EA is still dealing with angry employees who felt that the tweet was an insult to them, their staff, and the games they are making. A new report from USA Today sheds some light on how the terrible tweet came about, what the reaction to it was internally at EA, and what the plans were pitched to handle the situation, and the ongoing aftermath of it all. The whole mess is both equally confusing and funny. According to the report, an hour after the tweet went live last week, it landed in EA's internal Slack chat room, where employees and social media staff began sharing all the roast and angry responses, some from current EA execs, that were popping up all over. As negative reactions spiraled out of control and the discourse began, folks at EA began formulating a plan to turn the tweet into a positive. It just wasn't a good one. That's Zach there with the editorial. The initial plan was to get all the other EA social media accounts to start dunking on the tweet, while hopefully drawing more attention to various single-player games the publisher has in the works. But some staff pointed out that this roasting EA strategy would just reinforce the narrative online that EA's own studios and team hate the company. And so, after many social media managers backed out of the plan, it fell apart. There's more to this, but I'm pretty glad they didn't do that plan. That would have just exacerbated the nightmare for them, right? Just be like, having Respawn coming out being like, this fucking sucks. Oh no, okay.
You get Cal Kestis lightsabering E3.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Just cutting the
EA, sorry.
EA logo. Yes, exactly. Get John Riccatello, a picture of John Riccatello cut in half, and like, John Riccatello hasn't worked here for years. I don't care. We're cutting him with a lightsaber. Yeah, not a great. I mean, I get where they're going for there. Hey, we can point out that we have single player games by having our developers, but it's like the real narrative out there is like this corporate EA ruins all these studios, so you probably don't want to turn into that too much. Oh, hello, kiddo. She's got her bunny toy here. Everybody, say hello to Bunny. There you go. There you go. Okay. Bunny. There you go. Yes, hello, Bunny. Say hello to Bunny. Very good. All right, let's see what else. The most agreed on idea was to take responsibility for it and apologize, one source told USA. This is a novel idea. Yeah. However, this apology ended up being an equally embarrassing tweet saying people who play single player games were actually 11s instead of 10s. You get that one, Jan? They're 11s out of 10. But while the internet moved on to its next target, higher ups at EA are continuing to deal with the fallout from the tweet. USA Today reports that the FIFA publisher is hosting roundtable discussions and team meetings with executives who felt the joke was an insult to the games they're working on and the staff making them. I'm 99% sure the person who posted the tweet and their manager don't even know about single player game comments from a decade ago from EA. One source told USA Today. The comment they were referenced was the infamous 2010 quote from the then EA Games president Frank Gibeau saying that single player games were finished. Further, the source says that the staff running the Twitter account are all new and that most of them aren't really games industry people and likely had no idea about EA's long bad history with single player games. Kind of like Reddit/r/ well, there's your problem right there. Like, right? Like that seems to maybe be, I mean, listen, I'm not saying that only gamers can do these jobs. Get a real gamer in there. But it helps. Yeah. It helps in situations like this. Or at least having someone on the team to like, put up the red flag when you're about to do something like this, right?
100%. And, not saying that you have to be a diehard gamer to work in any portion of the games industry. But the problem also with the games industry is that no one ever forgets anything.
Yes.
Whether it is like a small misstep or an egregious statement like saying that single player games are dead, folks will continue to remember it and it will stick in people's minds for forever.
Absolutely. And the kinds of things we do forget are like things we get anxious about before a game comes out. We don't forget the weird things as an executive said. Like Jim Ryan brings this up now. He's never going to live down saying like, who wants to play old games? He's like, that's not exactly what I meant, but it doesn't matter. It's all anyone talks about now. So like they know this, and that's why when you're in a situation like when you're bringing up a concept, you have to have someone on the team that knows like what is EA's history with this concept, and clearly that didn't happen here.
Yeah, like Phil Spencer is so tired that he can't buy normal shirts anymore without people misconstruing it.
Exactly. Yes, he's no more graphic tees for that man. That's and can't put anything up on his shelf. It's all a nightmare.
He's wearing an anime shirt. Anime's heading to Xbox.
They got anime on Xbox now, and then that's why I throw my Xbox out. All right, let's see here. Halo veteran Paul Bertone, or maybe Bertoni, is now at 343 as studio technical design director. This comes from Joe Staten, who is the boss over there at 343 in terms of overseeing Halo. I'm happy to confirm Halo veteran Paul Bertone has joined the team as studio technical design director. Paul and I met in 1999 back in Bungie's Chicago days and then shipped Halo 1 through 3, ODST, and Reach together. I'm thrilled to have Paul help lead the future of Halo Infinite. And then he posted a picture of him and Paul at Joe's 50th birthday party, and they're all dressed up in nice ties and stuff. So yeah, the good buds getting back together, making games again. Basically, if you're wondering, the question probably everyone's thinking is like, what is a studio technical design director? So I kind of looked into this, and some people on Reset Era helped out here. Basically, it's the head of the technical guidelines, tools, documentation, developing the overall vision of the technical features and the engine requirements, and it's kind of a bridge between game design and technical expertise. And then someone who says they are a technical director says it's the equivalent of a tech art director and acts as a buffer between the design and engineering departments and acts as an advocate for the design team's needs when it comes to creating tools and engines and the support therefore therein. So I think this is almost kind of one of the things that 343 and Halo really need is someone that can say, hey, the team it needs all these things. The tools need to be working in this way to facilitate all that. Because I think based on the output, like the pace of the output from that team, they must be having some issues with their tools and their engine, because there's just not enough content coming out for that game. And maybe there's other issues, but it definitely seems like at least one issue is probably that the engine is not facilitating and empowering the creators at that company to put out all the stuff they need to get out to get people excited about that game again. But, good move. What do you think?
Yeah, totally. Sometimes someone that is familiar with the product can come back in a certain position and give it a good kick in the pants.
Right. Exactly.
A good kick in the pants.
A good kick sometimes a bad kick in the pants can't hurt. I mean, it could hurt, but then maybe that's the idea. Fall Guys is crushing as a free-to-play game. This is just a tweet I wanted to highlight real quick. The game's Twitter account posted that it has reached 50 million players in the 2 weeks since it launched on Xbox and Switch, and since, more importantly, it went free-to-play.
Wow.
I was expecting big things for this game when it went free-to-play. I wasn't expecting to be like this successful. It is having its second surge. Clearly, it is a huge success, right?
Great for them. Absolutely great for them. Going free to play can go either way, where it is like a flash in the pan, but I hope this means continued a sustained player base.
Right. And Ticklebits and Chess for how long? And it's like, that's true of everything at a certain point. Like every game needs to figure out how to sustain itself over time. What helps is if you get 50 million players. Like having 50 million players, keeping 10% of your audience is 5 million players. Like that is a much better starting point. So it's like, yes, going forward, maintaining excitement about something is the challenge for everything. Hopefully they can figure that out, but it helps when you have such a good start. Final Fantasy XIV players are blocking access to notorious role-playing server with a character brigade. This comes from Grace Benefel at GameSpot. So let's just get into it. Following the long-awaited release of patch 6.18, which enables data center travel and allows players to visit other worlds, a growing number of players have been visiting other servers to check out their unique player culture. As reported by Games Radar, players wishing to visit the Balmung are out of luck. For as soon as you arrive, you will find a large amount of Balmung players blocking the way to the wider world. Balmung is well known in the Final Fantasy XIV community for erotic role-playing. This new travel feature made Balmung something of a tourist destination, but clearly community members are not interested in hosting. I'm just getting this idea of like a suburban couple going out to Balmung to like, hey, we're gonna go to what's the resort in Jamaica? It's the
Sandals.
It's the Sandals equivalent, but it's like it's basically like the erotic equivalent of Sandals. I can't remember the name, but it's like, yeah, go out there and we're gonna just like, we're gonna get nasty for a week and then we're gonna go back to our lives, and that's what is happening in Final Fantasy XIV right now. So yeah, like you're gonna go see a Chocobo show or something. I don't know. The server has recently been the source of community controversy as some players in the Balmung servers made real-life billboards advertising an in-game party. So clearly there's like a split in the server, right? Some people are like, everybody come to the party, and some people are like, we are going to create a human wall to protect our penises and our butts because we want them off limits to everybody else. This is all about ours. If you weren't Balmung originally, we don't want you here. These billboards featured copyrighted material as well as obvious signs that terms of service breaking modding tools were used for the characters on display. Once community members pointed this out, the billboards were taken down. The player planned in-game event they were advertising, however, is still on the way. So yes, it sounds like Balmung has literal gatekeepers, as someone in chat points out, right? There's a bunch of people literally gatekeeping access to the rest of the erotic role-playing server. Jan, how devastated are you by this?
I'm hoping I rarely use it, but I hope I can become clout strife and use the internet to enter the horny server, because I just need to know now.
Yeah, I need to see it for myself, and I think that these sticks in the mud trying to stop other people from having fun need to recognize the more the merrier.
Yeah,
I guess, what are they afraid of? Like, what? I guess I legit don't understand. Is it just that they are like, this is ours and we don't want people who weren't here from the start to partake? Or is there something else that they're worried about? Oh, if too much attention gets brought to us, maybe we will, this stuff will get taken away from us. I don't know, but
I
probably keeping
think
trolls out is what Marino says. That's probably the
yes,
simplest
yeah.
answer, right?
I was gonna say that they're probably so used to each other's horniness that any
Right.
type of feigned horniness will, not be received well.
Right. Yes. If you're going in there like, I'm going to pretend to be horny because that's funny to me, I bet that would be pretty frustrating and like, hey, you're actually hurting my vibes that I've so carefully cultivated here. And you know what? Fair. I get that. And like, this is it's a community run in a space that is owned by a corporation. Like trying to mod that, like be like, hey, we feel ownership of this space, even though we don't actually have ownership of it. That's like a difficult thing to pull off, and trying to be like, how do we moderate a space like that so we keep our original intended vibes? That could be pretty difficult to pull off, and this seems like an extreme scenario where it's like we're going to block people from entering here, but maybe they feel like they don't have any other choice. So I hope that they get to protect their horny, and I respect it. As
yes,
I just want you guys, everyone, I want them all to know that I respect your horny.
Yes, I do too.
Giant Bomb respects your horny Final Fantasy XIV Balmung server. And now you know. 2022's video game market declines expected to continue. This is by Matt Piscatella at the NPD Group. U.S. consumer spending on video game hardware, content, and accessory is now projected to reach $55.5 billion in 2022, a decline of 8.7% when compared to 2021. Some of the drivers of the decline include the return of experiential spending, higher prices in everyday spending categories such as food and fuel, the uncertain supply of video game consoles and hardware, video game console hardware, and certain accessories such as gamepads, and a lighter release slate of games, among other problems. The surge in video game players and engagement the market experienced during 2020 and 2021 has leveled off, and we are now seeing more entertainment opportunities emerge that compete for consumer attention and, of course, dollars. In hardware, the video game console market has yet to reflect normalized demand given ongoing supply constraints, particularly on new generation systems such as the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. This is not likely to change throughout 2022 and will lead to continued uncertainty for the market. So, I mean, we knew this was going to happen eventually, right? 2020 and 2021 anomalies due to the people having an entertainment budget that, while some people were definitely dealing with job crises and all these other issues of things moving around, there were still a lot of people who were working from home, weren't able to go out anywhere, had an entertainment budget, and were like, the one thing that makes sense now is video games. And a lot of people came to that realization, and it led to huge sales across the board. We knew that was going to come back down to earth at some point. It feels like we're in this weird thing where it's like the rising PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S sales are battling against that, and it's like with the supply constraints, it's going to cause a bit of a dip this year. Let me. Do you know anyone in your life, Jan, that like embraced gaming a little bit more during the pandemic? And do you like expect them to like maybe like still engage with it more than they did before the pandemic, but maybe not quite as much as they were during 2020 and 2021?
Oh, 100%. I saw so many people coming out of the woodwork that wound up buying a Switch during the pandemic because of Animal Crossing. A lot of folks wound up buying PS5s because of like the hype surrounded around it.
Right.
And then I've seen a lot of those people just taper off and go back to their normal activities. On top of that, the gas prices, food prices are rising around us. And I feel a big contributor to folks buying Switches. The Oculus was a huge holiday seller, I think, was because of that hot stimmy action, Like some folks that were able to work from home, took that stimmy and ran away with it and was able to perhaps get a Switch, get like a pre-built PC or a gaming laptop, and try out getting into games for a while. And now that we're not completely healed and gone over the pandemic, but a lot of folks are returning to their normal activities of going out, going to concerts, going to shows, or like movies. I can tell you, Grubb, as someone that has been going to the movies as soon as they've reopened, there are so many more people in theaters now than there were in the past couple of years.
Right. So you've been like able to track that trend. So okay, so they are getting more. I mean, it seems that way just based on what's happening with like Top Gun. I think like last week, almost like 4 or 5 movies made like $20 million or something like that. So clearly people are going back. I've started going back. So I think I think you're right, but I think again, there's like various battling pressures on the market right now. Someone in chat says it's weird. Rising gas prices make me want to stay home and play games, and of course that's happening as well. I think that this is what Matt Piscatella is really getting at here. That it's an uncertain market. Like that is how he basically finishes his thought there, where we don't really know what the demand is for consoles because they are limited in supply. So yeah, the Switch keeps selling really well, and then the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X keep selling out essentially. And so if they were a full supply and you could find one anywhere, would demand still be that high, or would it calm down because people feel more comfortable with saying they can get one at any time? Or would they just sell that much more because there's that many more on the market? We have no idea. It's really hard to pin that stuff down. And that's just like one thing on top of like all these various pressures that people are feeling from all other sides, where they go to the store and are they noticing the rising prices of their milk and their eggs and stuff like that? Most people are. And does that then affect how they decide to spend? And then when they make those decisions, is it saying, okay, I'm not going to go out and do an expensive meal out of the house, and I'm not going to go on that vacation, or we're not going to do that drive across the country because of gas prices. So what should we do instead? Well, maybe we can afford a new video game. But who knows if that's how people are going to decide. People have made that decision for the last couple of years. Are they still satisfied with that? It seems like probably not everyone. Everyone's probably looking for another way out. Maybe we will go back to the movies. The movies are still open. That's another good way to have an entertaining night. It's about the same amount of money. So I think people are just getting a few more options. And because they've mostly been sticking with video games for the past couple of years, a good percentage of the audience is like exploring these other options now. And that's just natural. But I do think many of the games made during the pandemic will have made like gamers for life or whatever, which, you know, that's also our motto, gamers for life. But like, so these people are going to come back to their consoles at some point, like, hey, oh yeah, I bought that thing during the pandemic. A new game is out I care about. Yeah, let's get it. Let's play it. So I think there are permanent gains, but there's going to be some fluctuation coming out of the pandemic where like that slack gets back into the market.
Totally.
Some predictions for 2022 at the year's halfway mark. This is also from Matt at MPD. Switch will lead 2022 console hardware and units sold, with dollar leadership a too close to call race between Switch, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S. I guess it's almost strange to see the Xbox in that race. Now, obviously, that is partially because the supply constraint, but also I think the Xbox Series X and S was a pretty good strategy of having the S console out there. Sort of no matter what, it's selling a lot. They're able to get a lot out there, and people are still excited about the Xbox. So that's pretty impressive that it's even in that race. Xbox Series will be the only console hardware platform to show dollar sales growth compared to 2021. That's also on the back of Microsoft clearly able to get more Xbox Series X's out there than a lot of people were expecting. Hardware shortages will continue into 2023, particularly on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, while potentially impacting other segments such as VR. It's something I hadn't really considered. Like, oh yeah, that the supply constraint of components could hit like a new VR headset coming out. Maybe Facebook would have to push that off or whatever. Elden Ring will finish as 2022's best-selling premium game in the U.S. market, marking only the third time since 2009 that a Call of Duty franchise release does not lead the market. Do you know what the other two are, Jan?
Ooh, this is like box office game.
Yes, it is.
For video games. This year.
Well, this year was Elden Ring. So then in the past, there was two other times since 2009 that a Call of Duty franchise was not number one. I will tell you, they were both Rockstar games.
Oh, geez, Rockstar games. Well, I guess is it Red Dead or is both GTA 5?
I honestly would be surprised if it was both GTA 5. I'm pretty sure it's GTA 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2.
Okay.
Those are the two. Let's see. Let's move ahead. Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII won't feature new story elements, but that doesn't mean it's a basic remaster. That's by Kat Bailey over at IGN. Square Enix is overhauling the graphics, the interface, and somewhat controversially, the voice cast. Various improvements have been made to nearly all other scenes and battles to a point where it could be said that the work we are doing is akin to creating a remake. That's according to producer Mariako Sato. However, as the core elements such as the story are grounded in the original work, we call it a remaster. Speaking with IGN in a brand new interview, Sato discussed Square Enix's intentions for the remaster, outlining the differences between the various platforms and whether or not it will ultimately connect with Rebirth. Veteran producer Yoshinori Kitase was also on hand to shed some light on how the project managed to be greenlit in the first place. According to Kitase, Crisis Core was not conceived in response to Final Fantasy VII Remake's infamous reveal. Rather, Kitase says Final Fantasy VII Remake's successful development led Square Enix to realize that other stories from the universe could be updated as well. There isn't really an exact date that I can point to at the moment, but I do recall that it was towards the end of Final Fantasy VII Remake development that we realized that with the quality we were able to bring to Final Fantasy VII Remake, we might be able to create something for the stories that are actually surrounding Final Fantasy VII as well. And it is an actual possibility that we can develop Crisis Core. So that's the timing at which we decided that, yes, this remake can actually happen. Hang on. Sorry, I got yelled at by the kids. Okay, finally, let's see here in the news, then we'll move on to the catch-up. Nintendo announced the Mighty Bowser Lego building set. Did you see this thing?
No.
Let's drop this in here, too. Let me scroll down here. This thing looks pretty cool.
This looks absolutely gorgeous. I'll use the air. You can see Grubb has this on screen now. There's a Lego kit. It looks like it is about over 2,000 pieces, close to 3,000. Oh, this looks so good.
Yeah, I think I'm going to get it. It's October 1st. It's 2,800 pieces, like you said. And I think they said it was like, what? Let me look up the price. Let's just click this button here, everybody. Let's see where it's going to take. I think it's $280 or something. It's not loading probably because people are all trying to pre-order it. Let's see. Accept all. Oh, no. Oh, I haven't seen this Peach before either. That's fantastic. This Lego Peach. They don't do the minifigs. They do the characters. Oh, man, my kids are going to go nuts for that. I think it was like, $280 or whatever. But I think this set looks really impressive. This Bowser looks very detailed, like way more detailed than I would expect a Lego Bowser to look.
Yeah. Okay, it looks like this doesn't have any type of functionality with their Mario Lego set stuff.
No, I don't think so. I think there is like a Bowser in one of those things, but it's like the smaller kind. And it has the little... the near field code on the back or whatever. So when Mario jumps on it, he like knows he's jumping on Bowser and stuff like that. This is like a separate thing just for builders. But it looks really cool.
How long until we get a Lego Mario game?
Yeah, I was thinking that would be very cool. I also think a Lego Mario like a TV special, because the best things on Disney Plus are those Lego Star Wars specials, the holiday one and the Halloween one, and they're doing they're doing a summer vacation one here in a couple of weeks, and it's like I'm so excited for that. I'm like they're so funny, they're so like whimsical and breezy. My kids like them. I have a good time with them. So I'm like, man, that'd be cool if they did a Lego Mario like TV show sort of thing. They're probably not going to do that though with Illumination doing the other thing. That would probably take some time before all those companies would feel comfortable like working around each other or whatever. All right, Jan, let's get to the catch up. Just a couple updates for everybody. The Matrix Awakens demo will be delisted on July 9th. So if you haven't checked that out, you should do that. Go download it now. Just get it on your system. It's actually a really, really impressive demo. It's worth checking out. I think it's on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S. I don't think they ever put it on PC, which is like, I would really like to see it on PC, but I don't think they ever did. See, the latest PS5 update is out. It gives you options for auto low latency mode, also ALLM. It's basically so when you switch to a gaming input on your TV, it automatically switches you to gaming mode. Now you can set it so either it does that or it doesn't do that, so that you can like activate it later for some reason if you want to. Like if you watch a lot of movies on your PlayStation 5, maybe you don't want gaming mode on or something. So, although most TVs have been pretty smart about when to turn that on and off. The Nintendo Wii Shop and Update channel are back online. So in March, these things went offline, and you can no longer download games from the Wii Shop. Now, you weren't able to buy games from the Wii Shop for years now.
Okay.
But in March, they went offline, so you couldn't even, like, if you bought something in the past, you couldn't download the games. Now they're back online several months later. Nintendo had never said anything about this. It just went offline in March. It was in maintenance mode that entire time, and now it's back online. It seems like someone just like, went into that closet and reset that server. It's kind of how it feels like, but I don't know.
My computer was up.
Yeah. Oh, dang it. Oh, I unplugged the Ethernet cable. PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium is getting its first additional content update by the end of this month, Jan. What are you looking for to like sort of keep you engaged with that? Or could it keep you engaged? I don't know.
I don't even know if I'm subscribed to the proper tier because I have not checked it out at all. I know that my best friend is very interested in it. He has been playing Red Faction 2. So, and his main concern that he would like is just more PS1, PS2 games. So
That's where I'm at. That's what I want.
just that.
I think like if we get I say closer to 10 than 5, but like around 5 to 10 editions that like from the classic library. I'm like at a point where, hey, you got a pretty good library of modern PS4 games on PlayStation Plus, Extra and Premium. Then I'm mostly impressed by that. You're doing a good job, but I still want that classic library to get some love and care. And PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, and PSP games. I think if you could add somewhere in total across all those platforms 5 to 10 games per month, I think that'll be a good number. I'll be checking in on that, and I'll be very excited. So hopefully that's what we're going to get. There's a possibility it might be closer to like 4 to 7 because that's kind of what they did with PlayStation now. So we'll see. Xbox has confirmed plans to attend Gamescom this year. This is by Tom Ivan at VGC. Following our recent Xbox and Bethesda Games Showcase, we're excited to confirm that Xbox will be back on the show floor at Gamescom 2022 in Cologne, Germany. The company said this in a message sent to the press today. Fans in Europe and around the world can expect updates on some announced games coming to Xbox in the next 12 months and a chance to hang out as a community again in person. So this is notable because PlayStation, Nintendo, Activision Blizzard, and Take-Two all have made announcements that they won't be there. Jan, you went to Key 3. You like went to a thing in person. I think I asked like Lucy a little bit about this, but what was your take kind of coming away from an in-person event again and how you're feeling about that?
I think there was a lot of good energy there that, that direct feedback, whether it was actual genuine criticism or just like happy to see people playing your game or reacting to your game, I felt like was a tremendous boost to the morale of especially some of the indie devs.
Right.
So I can only imagine that getting that people want that again. Sorry, losing my train of thought here, but
that's okay. Yeah.
Overall, generally positive. I wouldn't mind being able to go to another show floor, like perhaps a Gamescom, and check out more stuff and just see the general positivity, because I feel like the games industry as a whole has kind of been like, I don't know if people like stuff anymore. Do you like things?
Yeah.
Oh, sick, cool. Oh, whew. All right.
Yes, people are so hesitant and like afraid of dipping the toe even in the water with these kinds of things. And there's probably a lot of reasons for that, but I'm glad to see at least one of these companies like, hey, we are going to go for it. It's been working out well so far, and we recognize the risks of doing things in person. I think as long as they aren't forcing people on their teams to go who don't want to go to a thing in person yet, I think that's, as long as you're doing that, you're going to be fine. And as long as everyone fully understands they have that option to opt out of travel if they want to, I hope that's the case. BlizzCon will return in 2023. Blizzard's boss has claimed, this is by Chris Scullion at VGC, the annual gaming convention designed to celebrate Blizzard's game hasn't had a live in-person event since 2019, and Blizzard head Mike Ibarra has told the Los Angeles Times that plans are underway to bring it back. He said, "We previously announced we're taking a pause on BlizzCon while we reimagine it for the future, but do want to return to a live event that enables us to celebrate the community. We recently hired a new leader of BlizzCon, April McKee, who is hard at work on that plan. We are committed to bringing back BlizzCon in 2023. So another example of that. I'm like these publisher-specific events, BlizzCon, I'm not too surprised that one's going to continue to live. Even under Xbox, I imagine it's continue to live. QuakeCon will probably continue as well. And like stuff like Minecon. I'm glad these things still have their place in the industry, like just to let that fandom, like let their freak flags fly for sure.
Yeah, let those pervs go. Don't be like go. FF14 Balmung pervs and barricade the doors. Let them in.
Yes, let us in. Let's be horny for BlizzCon.
With consent.
With consent, absolutely. Kazuki Takahashi. Let's try this transition a little bit better, everybody. Some bad news. Kazuki Takahashi, the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh!, has died at 60. Takahashi started work as a manga artist in 1982, but did not find widespread success until 1996, when he created the immensely popular Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga series for Japan's long-running weekly Shonen Jump magazine. It sounds like it was a pretty tragic event. He was found wearing his snorkeling gear 30 meters off the coast of Nago in Okinawa Prefecture. So it sounds like it was an accident. They're still investigating. But that's pretty sad stuff, taken before his time, even like age 60. But sounds like he was out there being active and just had an accident. Yu-Gi-Oh is something I've never got into, but boy, it's something I see everywhere, and that's like Konami's biggest game ever that they have. It's still gigantic, and so Takahashi here, his legacy will live on. So rip to Kazuki Takahashi.
Thanks for including this, Grubb. I didn't scroll further far enough down to see this, but Yu-Gi-Oh is another property from my childhood that is somehow dominated and continue to be a part of my life into my adulthood. So this is really unfortunate. And it's pretty much because of this gentleman that I became friends with Matt Shipman, and then Matt Shipman became a part of this website because of Matt Shipman being a voice on Yu-Gi-Oh.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, like these trading cards, for as much as I talk about my adventures in Pokemon, I think I actually enjoy the game of Yu-Gi-Oh more. So rest in peace, sir, and thank you for your contributions to the world. I will be framing my Blue Eyes White Dragon in your honor.
Shouts, absolutely. Let's see here. Let's get to the question that we talked about yesterday. What would you rather have, a Switch Pro this year or a Switch 2 in 2024? And sort of the underlying the caveat there is, if you get a Switch Pro this year, it's probably going to be a little bit longer than 2024 before we get a Switch 2, right? People are like, I don't want to wait. I want the Switch 2. Is that where you're at, Jan? So 77% said they want a Switch 2 in 2024 rather than a Switch Pro this year.
Yeah, I don't see it coming out this year and making sense unless this is another thing that they've been sitting on. I know last time I was on the Game Morning Mess, we were talking about Nintendo stockpiling raw materials and stuff. So I just see that it just makes more sense to make new hardware in 2024, and hopefully by then they can kind of see what the landscape looks like with whatever half steps that Microsoft or PlayStation plan on doing, if they do plan on making like a half step PlayStation 5.5 or whatever like that.
And that's like that's still up in the air. It's still hard to gauge. And like I have like I go back and forth on predicting that. But like at the beginning of this generation for the Switch, I would have guaranteed we would have gotten a Switch Pro, because they've done that for every handheld system since the Game Boy. Game Boy got the Game Boy Color. DS got the DSi. The 3DS got the new 3DS. And we got the Game Boy. Game Boy Advance got Game Boy Advance maybe didn't have it, so maybe there's some precedence there. Like Game Boy Advance just got the SP, and that's not a real full upgrade or anything like that. But it got a brighter screen. There you go. Not quite.
It got backlit.
You got backlit. Yes. I think that this is the kind of thing where I think Nintendo's probably like, there's probably a lot of momentum internally at Nintendo to make this thing happen, and for whatever reason, any number of other pressures that like put on them for like, hey, maybe we don't need to do it right now. Thing is selling just fine as it is. Maybe we need to figure out what how we present this to consumers and how we go to the next Switch after that. And what does that look like? Do we want to extend the life of the Switch a couple of years? And like a lot of that stuff is like, they've signaled publicly that we are in the middle of the Switch life cycle just this last year. So with that in mind, maybe that's something they were thinking like, okay, we do put out the Switch Pro later and we try to get this Switch life to go a full 10 years. And so maybe it is like 2025 before we start hearing about an actual Switch 2. I generally agree with everyone here. Everyone wants a Switch 2 in 2024. I don't know if Nintendo agrees. I think it's very, very likely now that we actually still get a Switch Pro based on the rumors coming out of there and the rumblings. And I know that's weird, but I think that's probably going to happen. I hope that's wrong, but I think that's probably going to happen. I guess we'll see. Let's do the question for tomorrow. Let's just go ahead and write it here. Would you go to an E3 that is more like a PAX? I'm going to hit the poll button, and the options are going to be yes and no.
You know, now thinking about how ReedPop runs their conventions or their events, I could see those public days being filled with panels.
Yeah.
You know, like dev-focused panels, or like
Jeff Keighley did a few panels at an E3 that one time, and he had like Elam. That's actually my least favorite. It's my worst, but like least favorite E3 moment is Jeff Keighley talking to Elon Musk, and like they were taking questions. Some girl was like, "Can I take a selfie with you?" And Elon Musk did the biggest like eye roll, like, "I don't want to touch you, nerds." A thing like face I've ever seen, and like it was like everyone was kind of like, well, and he's like, "Fine, I'll take a selfie with you." And he did like a Tim Robbins voice, and I'm like, "What is happening? I hate it here so much." And I had to leave, and then I went to go see a band I like that was actually playing as part of Jeff Keighley's thing. So he made up for it, but. As long as the panels aren't like that, I'll be fine. As long as they're more like PAX panels, I'll be good. Maybe we could do an E3 panel. What do you say, Jan?
Oh boy, if we can't do PAX this year, we're most likely going to do E3. So maybe I have more time to train for some nugs.
Yes, exactly. Let's see, and then okay, you know what? We'll talk about this tomorrow. Jan, we got a lot still going on in Giant Bomb for the rest of the week, including some stuff today. Yeah. What's happening while I get our schedule up here?
There was an Arcadegeddon quick look that went up this morning, Dan and I. There's a special moment where Dan and I get very close to each other. Yes. There is the voicemail dump truck scheduled for later today, but also later today in about 2 hours, we have the Neon White Open. More of an invitational, but, NWO, it's funny.
Yep. For life, right? Yep.
For life. And that is exciting. We got, I don't know time. Oh, it's an hour. Oops. Yeah, it's an hour. Jesus. Okay. I have to prepare several things then.
Yes. Let's wrap this up. Yes.
We got DNF Duel coming up. I think Tam and Jason got to re-record that tomorrow due to some technical glitches. And then UPF tomorrow.
Yep, keep an eye out for all that stuff, everybody. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be on that Neon White Open, so come watch me compete. It's going to be a good time. I plan on defeating Jan and all comers, so prepare yourselves. All right, everybody, we're going to wrap up. Thank you all so much for watching. Till next time, you're the best audience in gaming. Makes it easy to make the best show in gaming. Have a good one. Take care of yourself. And too sweet.